Hey guys, this is Luis Lopez and I'm part of the Sushi Chuy group from Watsonville High School. And my group and I invite you guys to check out our Watch research project that deals with nutrient concentrations in areas with and without Ulva intestinalis and its effects on plankton population at Elkhorn Slough. We worked on 2 different locations with different environments and observed plankton in the laboratory while also gathering tons of data. So if you guys want to check out how this went and some of our really cool results, please check out our video. We hope that you guys enjoy it.
Hi, and welcome to Sushi Chuy's 2020 Watch Program presentation, investigating the relationship between nutrient concentrations and plankton. The Sushi Chuy group consists of Watsonville High School seniors Luis Lopez, Priscilla Quintero, Joanna Rubio, and junior Olivia Gurney. On the image on the left, you can see the Sushi Chuy group, along with our mentor at CD Carranza. And on the right, we can see the Sushi Chuy team heading down to EB Dock, which is one of our locations.
Las siguientes 2 diapositivas son un breve resumen de toda nuestra presentación en español. Nuestro experimento en el Elkhorn Slough fue enfocado en las concentraciones de nutrientes en el agua y cómo afectan a las poblaciones de plancton. Información importante de nuestro experimento es la revolución verde, que es el aumento de nitratos y fosfatos en fertilizantes, el Ulva intestinalis, que son algas que florecen en respuesta a altos niveles de nutrientes en ecosistemas acuáticos, y la eutrofización, que es escorrentía de fertilizantes densos en nutrientes. Nuestra pregunta comprobable es ¿cómo afectan las concentraciones de nutrientes en áreas con y sin Ulva intestinalis, la riqueza de especies y la abundancia de las poblaciones de plancton en Elkhorn Slough? Nuestra hipótesis es que habrá más riqueza de especies y diversidad de plancton en áreas con Ulva intestinalis. Pensamos esto porque creemos que el plancton será atraído a áreas con más densidad de nutrientes.
Ahora les vamos a dar un breve resumen de nuestro protocolo y resultados. Nuestro protocolo consistía en los siguientes 5 pasos. Primero recogíamos nuestro equipo y nos dirigíamos a nuestra primera ubicación, que es EB Dock. Y allí nos dividíamos en 2 grupos. Un grupo reunía datos meta, mientras el otro grupo analizaba los nitratos y fosfatos. Uno de nuestros grupos también recolectaba muestras de plancton usando 5 barridos a través del agua. Después nos dirigíamos a nuestra segunda ubicación con vulva y repetíamos el mismo procedimiento. Al final, recogíamos nuestras 2 muestras de plancton y nos dirigíamos al laboratorio para analizarlos. Nuestros resultados. Después de analizar y comparar nuestras muestras de plancton y data meta, concluimos que no había una correlación significativa entre la abundancia de plancton y la concentración de nutrientes.
So as a bit of background information, we wanted to address a few key topics pertaining to our project, and those are nitrates and phosphates, agricultural runoff, and algae growth. In the 1960s, the Green Revolution occurred, which was characterized by an increase in nitrates and phosphates in fertilizers. Ulva intestinalis is an algae that blooms in response to high levels of nutrients in aquatic ecosystems, and was a plant that was heavily involved in our experimentation. Runoff from nutrient-dense fertilizers causes eutrophication, which is a process that depletes the oxygen in a body of water and therefore kills the organisms living in it. And Watsonville is heavily involved in commercial agriculture, so the issue of agricultural runoff is very worrisome and costly to our community. The group's testable question was, how do nutrient concentrations in areas with and without Ulva intestinalis affect the species richness and abundance of plankton populations in Elkhorn Slough? In attempting to answer our testable question, we hypothesized that there would be more species richness and diversity of plankton in areas with Ulva intestinalis, and we thought this because we believed the plankton would be attracted to areas with a higher nutrient density. In the image on your right, you can see a map of Elkhorn Slough with our 2 locations in different colors. In the pink is location 1, which was at EB Dock, and we chose that location because there was no Ulva intestinalis present in the area. Location 2, marked by green, is at the bridge entrance, and we chose that location to contrast it to the first one because there was Ulva intestinalis present.
This is our list of materials. Some of the more important materials that we used were the water quality kit and the iPad. We used the water quality kit to test the nitrates and phosphate levels of the Elkhorn Slough in both of our locations. The iPad was helpful because it was our tool for taking pictures of our sites and because we used it to find metadata. Another necessary material we used was the plankton tow net because we needed it to collect plankton samples from both of our testing locations. Alright, so this is our protocol. When we first got to the Elkhorn Slough, we divided our group of 4 into 2 groups of 2 so that we could gather our materials as quickly as possible. Then, once our materials were gathered, we met up together so we could head to EB Dock, our first location. During this part of our day, we would split up into 2 groups of 2 again so that we could get our samples and data as quickly as possible, since we still needed to go to our second testing site. We tested nitrates, phosphates, gathered metadata such as dissolved oxygen and air temperature. We also gathered plankton samples. Then we came to our second location, the beginning of the bridge. We did everything the same way we did it at EB Dock. Once we finished at both locations, we headed to the laboratory to analyze our plankton samples through counting and distinguishing between different types of plankton. We also used this time to return all the materials we borrowed.
So here we can see our data obtained during data collection days, and our main focus for the data table web is the column for the nitrates and the phosphates and the rows for the dates, as they show when the data was collected and how that can also, maybe that can also have an effect on what we get. These are our main focuses because they are the ones that serve to determine if our hypothesis was correct or incorrect. So, in the first bar graph, which it compares the location and the plankton abundance. And so, based off this graph, we are able to conclude that the location with Ulva had a greater plankton abundance compared to that with no Ulva. And it seems that the rain didn't really have any impact on our results because it's still the same trial. We're able to obtain certain results, and they all have they don't not a certain location state has a greater plankton abundance to that of another throughout the whole bar graph. And on the second graph, we can see how the temperature throughout the weeks of our data collection days were always similar in both locations. And this comes to prove that weather couldn't really have an effect on our results of what location had a greater plankton abundance. On this bar graph, we're comparing both location and nitrates, and in the middle of the bar graph, we're able to see how there is really no results, so we obtain zeros for both locations, and then towards the end, we're able to obtain data that's not zero, and this can be because of the rainy weather. This occurs because this primarily occurs because of the runoff and the runoff that the rain produces, and this causes the drain of water from field to into the slough, which can which cause for us to have nitrate results. And the table, we can see in the last column we are able to identify the R2 value, and the R2 value for nitrates is less than 1, and this means that there is no correlation between any of the points. And then for the phosphates, the R2 value, there's no R2 value, and this is because for phosphates we didn't really obtain any other point that was not 0, and so it would have its R2 value is 0. And so by the end of this research, we found out that there was really no correlation between plankton abundance and nutrient concentrations, and we also believe that if we would have received more time, or if the weather would have actually been raining throughout those whole entire weeks, then we would have gotten more significant results because, like I said, we didn't find any correlation, and probably we would have at least gotten like more results on nitrates and phosphates, and we could have like seen if that like played any like effect, and like if time would have been expanded, we could have like also like seen if there was any effect on the nitrates and phosphates would have played any effect on like any in order to determine like if it was affecting like plankton abundance. So for our findings, like some of the main reasons as to why these are important is because the lower the concentration for phosphates and nitrates are, the better, because one will be able to find more species at the slough or any type of body of water. And not only this, but our findings are also demonstrate the effect that rain has and how like the runoff of nitrates and phosphates used in fertilizers actually does affect our wetlands, and how it can affect like worse like affects our species, and it can cause our species to like flee their habitat. So for any group that wants to later on take this project on, some of like our recommendations are to like identify like every plankton species, because what we did was just count how many we could find in that specific location. And if they are going to count them, to use alcohol in order for to make them stop moving, because if you do try to count them while they're moving, then it's going to be much harder, and your numbers might not be that accurate either. Also, to make sure to like do some background research on other species that can get affected by Ulva, and to not just focus on one specific species, because maybe plankton may not be the one getting affected, but other species may be getting affected by Ulva.
Since our research deals with nutrient pollution caused by runoffs in our community, we believe that the Alcorn Slough researchers would take interest in our project, because they might be interested in knowing how agricultural runoffs in the community and nutrient pollution impact Elkhorn Slough and the surrounding ecosystems. Also, another organization that might take interest in our project might be the Pajaro Valley Chamber of Commerce and Agriculture. After seeing the harmful effects that nutrient pollution has in our communities, they have the ability to implement some type of laws or regulation that would limit the amount of pesticides and fertilizers used in our fields, or they can raise awareness on the long-term negative impacts that nutrient pollution could have in our communities. Our site had several unique aspects to it that made our research really excel. One of them was Ulva at one of our locations. Ulva allowed us to have a different environment from that of the first one in order for us to see if the Ulva had an impact on the plankton abundance according to the environment data. Also, the distance between both of our locations allowed for our research to obtain different data at each of our sites. And lastly, the bodies of water at each of our locations allowed for us to obtain different plankton samples for each location, and at the same time allowed us to be able to test nutrient concentration caused by the nearby agricultural fields. What we enjoyed at our site. So while at our site, we made a lot of amazing memories and got a lot of good workouts too. First of all, we had a really beautiful scenery at the beginning of our field days. We also got to see crabs and sea otters and fish, which was really unique and fun at the same time. Because our group used waders, we were able to go in the water to take some of our measurements, and this was always really fun and something we really looked forward to. And it also created a lot of funny memories for us. Also, the distance, since the distance between both of our locations was about 15 minutes long, we had to walk those 15 minutes, and usually it was like the weather was very either hot or windy. But while at our walk, we'd always share some like funny memories from our childhood. Um, And by the end of these walks, as you could see Priscilla here, we're definitely exhausted and we do really get a good workout.
We would like to thank our mentor, Atsiri Carranza, for helping us during our field days and for making sure that we had a great time. As a whole group, we would also like to thank Enrique Melgoza, Peggy Foletta, Martha Arciniega, Satina Ciandro, our group advisor Daniel Johnston, and the rest of the Watch and Elkhorn Sioux staff for taking the time to help us on our field days and for helping us have a presentable and polished poster.